The Oval, only on its finest voices, spreading knowledge, inspiration, and awareness to the campus at large, with a splash of campus entertainment and entertainment news. Where could you go wrong? This is The Oval.
Hello, and welcome back to the 6th season of The Oval. I miss you all, and I hope you had a great summer. Now, before we jump into anything, I just want you guys to be introduced to a couple of new hosts we got here. Hannah, Adora, what's up, guys? So tonight we're going to talk about everything from politics to entertainment news. But first, what's new this week? What's going on? How's everybody doing? How you doing, Bhanu?
You know, pretty good, pretty gnarly. I was devastated to hear that Forever 21 was finally announcing that they're like actually going into bankruptcy, which is kind of like it speaks to something about like the way that the like consumer market has really shifted. It's really like it's really sad. It's upsetting, you know.
But on the other hand, it's like a good opportunity for people to switch gears from like providing to those big corporations and then going more local when it comes to fashion and like thrifting and stuff.
And you know, I think it's like a lot of other fast fashion kind of like stores like maybe like H&M and Zara and like other things like that, maybe they'll take notice of this and like they'll have to change their gears too. I don't know, I think it really, like I said, it says something about like where we're going in terms of like what clothing we're trying to look for. Forever 21 had something. They had something going. It just maybe wasn't the best for everybody, you know? So hey, so be it. Yeah, just wasn't it.
Johnny, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all today?
Good.
I'm happy to start season 6 of The Oval.
Yeah.
Shout out to us. Shout out
to everybody that used to be here. Shout out to all of them.
Yeah.
Carrying the show on, and now we're on season 6, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So super exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm still here. So.
Yeah, you're still here.
I'm still here.
That's impressive.
Glad to be here.
Yes, very glad to be here. Yes.
Anything new with you guys?
No, busy start of the week. Everything, I think like it's the 6th week of school. Everything's getting like going. It's grinding. I think all my friends have like gone into lockdown mode of like they're in their schedule.
Yeah,
we're like
they don't hang out with you anymore. Like you saw them for the first week and then they're like just gone.
That's usually how it goes, right?
Happens to me too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I actually just read something crazy that this in China, this like 63-year-old man was on the run for 17 years. And they just found him in a cave. He hasn't had human contact since he was in prison. Unbelievable. They just found him out in some mountains in a cave 17 years later.
Who tipped them off? He's in the cave.
I know.
Yeah, it's like, how do you find somebody?
Yeah, I think what happened was some hikers went out into the mountains and happened to like see this man who like, and I read it that he like wasn't dressed and things like this. So they like gave a description and then the police went out and they thought that maybe it's this guy from 17 years ago and just so happens.
Yeah, maybe it's this guy.
Yeah.
How did he sustain himself for 17 years in a cave?
I don't know.
Did he go like
hunter-gatherer?
primitive? Yeah. Was he
probably back.
He just resorted back to that
wild.
lifestyle?
I know, I guess so. I don't really know. But all right, so right now we're going to take a quick short break and we'll be right back. So before we jump into discussion, we just want to play you guys a little PSA that was put out by the Sandy Hook Elementary School just a few weeks ago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Welcome back to the Oval. So the PSA that just played for us was put out by the Sandy Hook Promise, a national nonprofit organization funded and led by several family members whose loved ones were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School in December of 2012. So obviously this is a very, creative commercial, one, and it speaks on a lot of different messages, on a lot of different waves. So I just want to know what you guys really think about this.
I feel like it just speaks to the rampant gun control culture. Like, kids shouldn't have to think about their safety when they're in school or how they're going to get out if a school shooter was to ever enter the school. I feel like it's something like we have to think about on a daily basis that shouldn't be even thought about in the first place. It's scary.
Yeah, what they should be thinking about is like what they're advertising in that video. You know, they shouldn't have to think about something huge like that. They should just be thinking about the little things that they need to do well in school, and that's how it used to be. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think it's a very smart commercial.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it and immediately I was very taken back by it. I think it's a good time to put it out, of course, because we see all those commercials, Kohl's and Kmart and Walmart putting out, oh, come buy your school supplies and get this, and when there are real issues to kind of be talked about that are happening in school.
Definitely desensitizes it.
Exactly, I absolutely do think it desensitizes it.
It's kind of, when I first saw it on Twitter, I watched it, and then I read some comments that people were saying about it, and I watched it back again, and I started noticing different things, and things in the backgrounds and stuff, and it was just kind of it really struck to my core. It hurt so badly, and thinking about that's really the climate that's going on nowadays is terrifying, utterly terrifying, and it's
I think it also takes it from out looking at it from outside the school into looking at it from the inside. I think that's a perspective that people don't have when they're looking at these mass shootings. It's we always look at the people who are grieving rather than the actual perspective of the kids themselves and what's going on inside the school at the time too.
That is so true. It's really just such a tough topic. I mean, and I know that we were discussing this before, and we're bringing all this attention on vaping, of course, but there's so many gun control issues in the United States right now that just need to be solved before. I think a lot of things. I mean, I just don't think that there is enough time taken out in the government to, take time to make the policies, and nobody's really taking the steps towards making the policies these days, which is unfortunate.
I think there's a lot of distractions that are happening, and it's become such a normal thing, which is so awful to say that, but because it's become such a normal thing, people are shifting their attention to other things that need to be fixed rather than actually working at the issue itself.
What kind of security did you guys have in your schools, in your high schools? If you remember, if any.
Do you know? For the longest time, we were I'm from here. I'm from Oneonta, New York. So it's just in our own high school, we didn't really have much, but eventually, I think it must have been 2014 or 2015, we did have a room that was right next to the front doors, and in a portion of the room, they converted that so that there would be a person, a security guard on standby. They made modifications to the doors. They made changes as to how people sign in and out of the school, people who come in and, visitors. And I think maybe for somebody who graduated in 2016 out of high school, I didn't really see a lot of the same effects that maybe someone like you who is just graduated only 2 years ago might have seen in high schools. We had drills for school shootings, but we didn't have them intensely, and we had drills, but they were kind of more ordinary. They weren't because these things were happening so rapidly yet. But it every single day it's just kind of so disheartening, when you do hear about these things happening, and it's just kind of I hate that it's become so commonplace.
It really has. Like you mentioned, desensitizing everyone. It has become commonplace. It seems that almost every day there's a news headline of some kind of shooting, whether it be in a school or not. But I know personally from my school, so following Parkland, so that happened in my senior year, and I remember going back to my high school last year, and I couldn't buzz in, I couldn't do anything, and it was just crazy. I mean, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I think nowadays, unfortunately, that's what it's come to. But so we're gonna move on from that topic, and we'll be right back after the commercial. back. Global climate strikes took place last week, including one in Oneonta, right here on campus. So how do we feel about this topic? I know you were recently talking to me about Greta Thunberg.
So last week, I think we all kind of saw a glimpse of her address to the UN, which was really powerful, and she spoke up a lot about how she shouldn't have to be doing this, but the younger generation is striking on school, and she's gotten over 1 million students under the ages, I think, of 16 to go on strike for school for the climate. And we talked about this last week, a saying that I've been kind of living by is showing up for yourself. And I think that these younger generations need to do that in order to make these big changes. And I mean, you look through history and you see revolutions that have happened have been these younger generations showing up in numbers, and not just showing up on social media, but like showing up in person, at being an actual advocate for what you're speaking out about and practicing what you preach. And I loved that Oneonta like demonstrated that, and we didn't have like a huge turnout, but like just the thought of there was people with signs and there were people yelling and being proud about what they were out there for was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, just when I see like a young woman who's like under 18 going up and doing these things and talking to, you know, these honestly like these white men who are like, you know, 60, 70 years old and saying like something needs to change. Off the bat, I just respect that. You know what I mean? Off the bat, I just respect that.
It's kind of like, what were we doing when we were 16? Not that. I could not have done that when I was 16. I do not have enough willpower. So that's why when you see someone like her taking so much initiative, it's in that case, it's like really, really heartwarming to see. And it's really like, it gives you a lot more hope that there are a lot of people who do care and are really, like they're done. Like they don't want to put up with anybody's,
I love how she's taking this so seriously too. You know, I was reading about how, and looking at these pictures, she has not like broken out into any humor about this once. She's been straight-faced through the whole thing, and I think like I picture myself doing this and like the pressure of people in the backlash of like people not agreeing with what I say. Like I would just use humor as a way to like show my insecurities, but she is strong. She is not. She's just like standing by what she's saying, and for like a 16-year-old girl, I think that's amazing. And that's really good influence on like other women, especially who want to be advocates for something like this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know that like you mentioned social media earlier, and you know, what do we kind of think about like social media and advocacy? How does that really like play a part?
Well, I'll say, I think that social media has been one of the biggest blessings in terms of political strategizing, in terms of community organizing. I always go back to like the shooting of Michael Brown. When there was all the protests going on in Ferguson, the town was in martial law, and everybody was like, you weren't allowed to go into Ferguson. So the only way you know what was going on was through Vine and Instagram and Twitter, people posting pictures, and so you really got to see what happened. And I think one of the sad parts about the internet is that, because everyone does have an opinion, and excuse me, not everybody understands that just because you have an opinion doesn't make it correct morally or factually either. We look at this young woman, I think what's amazing that she has so many people who are so much older, so threatened, because she's legit saying something that's going to benefit every human being on the planet, every living thing.
And
but
she's holding them accountable.
Yeah, she's holding someone accountable, and it's like, I see all these older people, adults, picking on her online and this, that, and the third, and seeing how like she's nasty, or like comparing her to like the young man who was intimidating the Native American man. I don't know if anybody saw it like months ago. Who was playing the drums, and like trying to like, you can critique one but not the other. But I'm like, the other wasn't really standing for anything. Whereas this one person, she's legit not traveling by plane, so she can reduce her fossil fuel emissions and stuff like
she
that.
Just sailed.
Really? It's amazing. She should take trains and stuff.
Because
This
she's
is what it is.
so
She
against
sailed.
aviation
Yeah,
to
she's
New
like,
York.
That's how committed she is to her cause. She's really showing up. She's like really
she is
like
showing up.
like no. I don't know the expression I can use on television, but she really did that. You know, she really sailed to make her point made, and it's like, that's great.
I remember like a few weeks before, maybe a few months before she had sailed to New York, she was like, I will find a way to get to New York so I can speak there. Like, I will do it. I will step foot in America to say what I want to say, even if whatever it takes. And then like the next week, she was like, she'd found a sailboat that would take her, and I was just like, wow, this girl, she's crazy. She's just so dedicated, and I think I definitely agree with you that like social media is really, really good for that, but I think it can be argued that it is desensitizing too in a way where people can say what they want and portray themselves in a way but not actually put themselves to work for it, you know? Like I think a lot of people are advocates for climate online, but when it comes to their actual life, they're not practicing what they preach.
Yeah, there's definitely a big idea of, you know, like slacktivism, basically, and like, you know, because I can just see a Greta post and like it and share it, but what is that really doing? You know, what is it really doing? I mean, it does definitely get the word out, and that definitely is effective, but I mean, how effective? Like, is it making any real change? So, after this, we're gonna go head on over to our new entertainment host and see what she's got for us. Exciting stuff. Welcome back. We're here with our entertainment host, Jada Jackson, bringing us the Monday Tea Special. What you got?
All right, so with these Antonio Brown rape claims, you know, it has a controversial conversation sparking whether if money is a factor within rape allegations. So I don't know if you guys watch State of the Culture, Joe Budden's controversial show. So, you know, rapper and host Remy Ma, she said that if women who file rape charges against someone who seek compensation, it's considered prostitution. So like, I have two problems with that. I feel like it's twofold. I understand what she's saying as of it's prostitution, but it's not prostitution because one, you have to consent with the sexual encounter, and two is like, if you're asking for a compensation, I don't see a problem in that because you have things to pay for, like lawyer fees are very expensive. You can have money to get a therapist, or you could use it for however you want. I don't think you're a prostitute if you're asking somebody for $1 million, $2 million, especially a celebrity, if they done something wrong to you. So that's my thing. How do you guys feel?
Well, I think there's three important aspects of it. One friend of mine had brought up the fact of that this could be Remy Ma possibly projecting internal feelings she's had, because maybe she's had an experience in which she was made as though she couldn't speak out, so this is her kind of projecting those insecurities. However, I'm not her and we don't know her, so we don't know. Two, there's also that factor of, in regards to prostitution, a lot of the whole point of bringing up prostitution is in order to kind of demean and discredit the other person's claims, and I think that comes from the fact that many people view sex work as dirty work and not as legitimate work. So if in like, because it's not prostitution, but let's say it was, what would be the issue with that? What's wrong with it? So, sorry, and then like going, like lastly, I think what's going off of it is that one, not only is just a ludicrous statement, but it also just goes back to the same fact, like you were saying, lawyer fees, therapy fees, things of that nature. One of the things about, I would say just like global culture, but especially American culture, is that when it comes to legality, oftentimes we see capital as a remedy to that. So you can't really blame the victim for seeking financial compensation, because a lot of times if it's not, hey, we're not going to put this person in jail, but you can get X, Y, and Z, you're probably going to take X, Y, and Z paycheck because, well, that individual may or may not go to jail regardless. At least I'm going to get $5 in my pocket for something for it, because in American society, we see compensation as a form of justice, even if nothing in reality happens. And I think it's just a cheap shot when people are like, oh, well, this person has money and this, and stuff. But it's also like the realities of, well, people also like get legitimately do get raped. And statistics show us that even when people do get raped and have proof about it and go through the legal system, a lot of the times the individual themselves, like people like Brock Turner, don't even get a full sentence or even get sentenced themselves. So that's just my 18 cents into it.
I feel like speaking on the legal system as like a sexual assault or rape victim, you don't want to go through the whole process of trial and reliving that. So I don't find an issue with selling out of court, taking the money, or just having that secure, safe of mind, like, okay, I have this money and I didn't relive what I went through a year ago or a couple months ago. So I feel like her comment was like shady and, as Johnny said, discrediting the victim that went through this traumatic situation. So
yeah, she's not in her shoes, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much hardship that comes with rape allegations, and like the money could really fill the void that you have at least like temporarily, you know what I mean? Instead of having to repeat yourself and repeat your story and defend your honor and everything, like it is compensation.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, I mean, she could just be trying to make a splash, you know what I mean? Because you're on Twitter or Facebook and you read that comment, I'm saying, what is she talking about, you know what I mean? Right. And you know, Remy, she's falling off a little bit. She's falling off a little bit, but you know, I gotta agree with you. I mean, if something like that terrible happens to someone and they have I mean, they can fix that situation however they want to fix that situation.
No, that's up to them.
That is up to them. If they don't want to drag it out in court, don't drag it out in court. Get the money.
Yeah.
Get the money, you know? Yeah, so, yeah. How do you guys feel about that? Good?
I understand what she meant with the whole, so why do criminal charges, why go through a whole rape charge? But I just disagreed with the whole prostitution statement. But you know like how it is with these celebrities who have money and stuff like that, like it be girls who are like, all right, like if you give me $2 million, I won't say nothing. So I think that's the point where like she was coming from, is like, so girl, like why go to court, why say this if you're just gonna take $2 million and go skip off into the sun and not say nothing about it?
I mean, you still want your story here at the end of the day. You want the accuser to have his time in court in case something.
In case he does it again. Too.
Yes, and then her point was why settle or why go through all of that if you're just gonna take money. Like she said that if you rape me or if you rape my sister, you're gonna go to jail. Like I don't want your money. Like money cannot replace what you did to me, or it can't like fill that void of what you did to me. So I understand that, but for her to say prostitution, I'm like, sis, no, it's not.
Especially that's really harmful for like a victim to hear that too, like to someone who did not choose this to happen to them, like to be called something like that on top of all this already happening to them. That's harsh.
Right, because if it's just a regular person, I'm not suing you for I know you don't got $2 million to give me. I'm going to want you to go to jail. So why is it a difference between the rich and the famous? That was her point. But that prostitution statement, she was bugging.
That was a bit.
Yeah, it was definitely outrageous.
I didn't like that.
Yeah. Well, Jada, thank you so much for the tea. Really appreciate it. And thank you guys all for joining us tonight. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Oval TV and The Wire at WireTV 73. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great night.